Many years ago, in the land of Canaan, there lived a man named Jacob. He had many sons, but one of them was special, Joseph. Jacob had many wives, but he loved one wife, Rachel, the most. Rachel was very sad because she could not have children, while Jacob's other wives had many sons and daughters. Rachel prayed to God to give her a child. She wanted to have a baby very much. One day, God heard Rachel's prayer. She became pregnant and was very happy. Jacob was also very happy because he loved Rachel and wanted her to be happy. Rachel and Jacob waited for many months for the baby to be born. They wondered if it would be a boy or a girl. They hoped the baby would be healthy and strong. Rachel took care of herself, and Jacob took care of Rachel, making sure she had everything she needed. Finally, the time came for the baby to be born. Rachel went through a lot of pain, but she was brave. Jacob stayed close by, ready to help in any way he could. After many hours, a baby boy was born. Rachel and Jacob were filled with joy. They named the baby Joseph. As a young boy, Joseph was favored by his father, which made his brothers jealous. They resented him and his special coat of many colors, a gift from his father. One day, Joseph had a dream where he saw his brothers bowing down to him. When he shared this dream with them, it only fueled their anger. On one fateful day, Jacob sent Joseph to check on his brothers who were tending to their flocks. When the brothers saw Joseph coming, they remembered their jealousy and made a plan to get rid of him. At first, they thought about killing Joseph. They said, "Here comes the dreamer. Let's kill him and throw him into a pit. Then we can say a wild animal ate him." But the oldest brother, Reuben, didn't want to kill Joseph. He said, "Let's not kill him. Let's just throw him into this pit." Reuben planned to come back later and save Joseph. So, when Joseph arrived, his brothers took off his special coat and threw him into an empty pit. While they were eating, some traders came by, traveling to Egypt. Judah, another brother, had an idea. He said, "Let's sell Joseph to these traders. That way, we won't have to kill him, and we can make some money." The brothers agreed. They pulled Joseph out of the pit and sold him to the traders for 20 pieces of silver. The traders took Joseph to Egypt. To cover up what they did, the brothers took Joseph's special coat, dipped it in goat's blood, and brought it to their father. They said, "We found this. Look, isn't it Joseph's coat?" Jacob recognized it and thought a wild animal had killed Joseph. He was very sad and cried for many days. In Egypt, Joseph was sold as a slave to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh. As a slave in Potiphar's house, Joseph faced many trials and challenges. Despite his circumstances, Joseph remained faithful and diligent in his duties, earning the trust and favor of his master. Potiphar recognized Joseph's integrity and soon entrusted him with great responsibility, putting him in charge of his household affairs. However, Joseph's loyalty and hard work did not go unnoticed. Potiphar's wife began to take an interest in Joseph, making advances towards him. Yet, Joseph remained steadfast in his principles and refused her advances, unwilling to betray the trust of his master. Frustrated by Joseph's rejection, Potiphar's wife falsely accused him of attempting to seduce her. Despite Joseph's innocence, Potiphar believed his wife's deceitful words and had Joseph thrown into prison. In prison, Joseph found himself in a place of darkness and despair, surrounded by criminals and outcasts. Yet, even in this grim environment, Joseph's spirit remained unbroken. He refused to succumb to bitterness or self-pity, instead choosing to hold onto his faith and integrity. One day, while Joseph was still in prison, Pharaoh's cupbearer and baker were also thrown into the same prison. Each of them had a troubling dream, and they were visibly distressed. Moved by their distress, Joseph approached them and asked, "Why do you look so troubled today?" The cupbearer replied, "We both had dreams, but there is no one to interpret them for us." Joseph, knowing that interpretations belong to God, offered to help. "Please tell me your dreams," he said. The cupbearer went first. "In my dream," he began, "I saw a vine with 3 branches. As it budded, blossomed, and produced grapes, I squeezed the grapes into Pharaoh's cup and placed the cup in his hand." Joseph pondered for a moment and then interpreted the dream. The 3 branches represent 3 days, he explained. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your position as his cupbearer. You will once again serve him as you did before. Encouraged by Joseph's interpretation, the baker eagerly shared his dream. In my dream, he said, I carried 3 baskets of bread on my head. The top basket contained all sorts of baked goods for Pharaoh, but birds were eating them from the basket on my head. Joseph's countenance grew solemn as he interpreted the baker's dream. The 3 baskets also represent 3 days, he said. However, the outcome is not favorable. In 3 days, Pharaoh will lift off your head and hang you on a tree. The birds will eat your flesh. True to Joseph's interpretations, on the 3rd day, Pharaoh's birthday, he restored the cupbearer to his position but hanged the baker, just as Joseph had foretold. However, the cupbearer, who was restored to his position, forgot about Joseph for some time. 2 years later, Pharaoh himself had 2 troubling dreams that left him deeply disturbed. In his first dream, he saw 7 fat cows emerging from the Nile, followed by 7 skinny and malnourished cows, which devoured the fat cows. In the second dream, he saw 7 healthy ears of grain growing on a single stalk, followed by 7 thin and withered ears, which swallowed up the healthy ears. Pharaoh sought an interpretation for his dreams from his wise men and magicians, but none could provide a satisfactory explanation. It was then that the cupbearer remembered Joseph and his gift of dream interpretation. Joseph was quickly summoned from the prison, and after cleaning up and changing his clothes, he stood before Pharaoh. Pharaoh recounted his dreams to Joseph, hoping for clarity and understanding. With humility and reliance on God, Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dreams. He explained that the dreams were a divine message from God, revealing that there would be 7 years of abundance, symbolized by the fat cows and healthy grain, followed by 7 years of severe famine, represented by the skinny cows and withered grain. Joseph advised Pharaoh to appoint a wise and discerning man to oversee the collection and storage of grain during the years of plenty to prepare for the upcoming famine. Impressed by Joseph's wisdom and insight, Pharaoh recognized the hand of God upon him and appointed him as the governor of Egypt, second only to himself. During the years of plenty, Joseph stored grain and provisions, preparing Egypt for the famine. When the famine struck, it affected the whole region, including Canaan where Joseph's family lived. Jacob sent his sons to Egypt to buy grain, unknowingly coming face to face with their long-lost brother. Joseph recognized his brothers, but pretended not to. As Joseph's brothers stood before him in Egypt, he saw an opportunity for reconciliation, but also a need for them to understand the gravity of their actions. So, he devised a series of tests and trials to gauge their character and remorse. First, Joseph accused them of being spies and demanded that they prove their innocence by bringing their youngest brother, Benjamin, to him. This was a test to see if they would abandon Benjamin as they had abandoned him. When they returned with Benjamin, Joseph arranged a feast for them, but secretly placed his own silver cup in Benjamin's sack. He then accused Benjamin of theft, intending to see if his brothers would abandon Benjamin as they had abandoned him years ago. Seeing their distress, Judah stepped forward and offered himself as a slave in Benjamin's place, demonstrating their changed hearts and willingness to protect their brother. At this moment, Joseph knew that his brothers had truly changed. With tears in his eyes, Joseph revealed his identity to them, embracing them and forgiving them for their past actions. It was a moment of reconciliation and redemption, where the trials they faced served as a catalyst for healing the wounds of the past and restoring their family bond. He invited his family to live in Egypt, where they prospered under his care. During this time, Joseph married Asenath, the daughter of Potiphera, the priest of On. Asenath was an Egyptian woman, and their marriage solidified Joseph's position in Egyptian society. Together, they had 2 sons, Manasseh and Ephraim. Years passed, and Jacob grew old. Before his death, he blessed his sons, including Joseph, affirming his special place among them. Jacob lived to see his family flourish in Egypt. When Jacob died, he was taken to Canaan for burial as that was his last wish. As Joseph got older, he knew his time was near. He called his brothers and their children to come see him. When they arrived, he spoke to them with a gentle and loving voice. He reminded them of the promises God had made to their ancestor Abraham. He told them that God would one day bring them back to their own land, the land of Canaan. Joseph then made them promise that when God took them back to Canaan, they would take his bones with them. He wanted to be buried in the land of his fathers. His family promised they would do this for him. After saying these things, Joseph lay down in his bed. He closed his eyes and took his last breath. Joseph died at the age of 110. His family was very sad, but they remembered his words and his faith. That was the whole story of Joseph, son of Jacob, from the Bible book of Genesis chapter 37 to 50. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, like, and share.